Oh, got a bit of a wobbly camera situation. Hello peeps. I'm just hanging around waiting to see if anyone's joining me. Just tidying my desk while I'm waiting. I should have really tidied it earlier, but I've been busy doing this and that. Oh yes, I'm live. Hi Mum. That's good. It's always a bit of a concern. I probably say this every single time I go live. If I looked back at all my videos over the last couple of years, I'd probably start them all going, oh, I'll just wait and see if anyone joins me. Oh, it's really worrying when you're just live and you don't know if anyone's there. Oh dear. Right, here I am. It's Tuesday. I think it's the 24th of May. And I'm Izzy Shashinsky of Izzy's Crafty Bees. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK, and I've just jumped on to do, I'm hoping this will be a quick live today. I've not been able to do a live for a couple of weeks. This last week has been busy, so not this weekend just gone, which has been busy. The weekend before I was actually away in Norfolk, and the weekend before that, although I was at home, I was very busy doing a catalogue launch in-person party at home. So when it got to Tuesday, I felt like I'd sort of spent quite a bit of time already with my Stampin' Up side hustle / business / hobby. So yeah, I've not been here live for a couple of weeks, but I'm here today and I'm going to share a fancy fold. It's quite a nice, fun, fancy fold, and it was Mum that actually pointed me in the right direction with this one. She'd seen it on YouTube with another gosh, I can't even speak. Apparently I come with sound. Let me just switch the volume on. It was another Stampin' Up demonstrator who shared her video, an American demo, so it was all in inches. So I'm going to share it in metric. First of all, I am just going to clear a few bits. Just realised I've got stuff all over my desk. So I'm going to share this one in metric. Now I've not got an example to show you because I haven't made this style card. I'm waffling an awful lot today. Can you tell? I've been so busy this morning. So I've had a really busy weekend. Let's start with that. Golden Moments, had a really busy weekend. I did spend a lot of time in my craft room on Saturday, but I was making a commission. So I was making a wedding card in an album format for my friend and neighbour from her and her colleagues, and that's taken a lot of my hours. So I crafted all for half a day, and then I did some gardening. Then on Sunday went to Manchester with my husband to a house gig, which was absolutely delightful. Very small select audience, no more than a dozen people, and a female singer-songwriter, Emily Barker. Look her up on YouTube. She's absolutely fantastic. Australian born, now lives in the UK, and she writes country folk music. Absolutely superb. Lorna, you will love her. Just look her up on Facebook. So, and this was just an acoustic gig. It was just Emily and her guitar, and she stood and sang for about a couple of hours. And this took place in a big house in Manchester, and it was wonderful. Just absolutely great. So that was just a really nice, different day. And yesterday I had a lovely day over at my friend Helen's, Helen Holden. Andrew and I went for lunch with her and Helen and her husband Dave, and we just had a lovely afternoon. We had a fabulous leg of lamb. It was to die for, and Helen had made cherry frangipane tarts for afters, and it was just a lovely, lovely day, catching up with friends, having a walk around Helen's garden and all the things that are growing. So a thoroughly enjoyable day. So I've had a really nice weekend, but a very packed weekend too. So how about you? What have you been up to? What have been your golden moments, and what have you enjoyed? You can pop those in the comments as I craft. You can chat in the comments as I craft with you. And right now I'm just going to flip the camera around and we'll get cracking. Realised I haven't even got my stamp set off my shelf. This morning I've been trying to catch up on housework because I've not been home all weekend. So yes, here we go. Let's just spin you around. I think there's a song there, but I'll refrain from singing. So let's have a look at the craft desk. I'm going to also challenge myself today to use a couple of colours that are not particularly colours that I use. So yellow, and I've just realised this is very Ukrainian, isn't it? So maybe we can have a nod to supporting the Ukrainian refugees. So let me just, that's better. I think my camera wasn't quite gripped in its holder. So yes, yellow is not a colour that I reach for as my main colour with any project. I usually use yellow as an accent colour, and poor old Pacific Point, I'll just take a sheet of that out because I won't need more than that. Poor old Pacific Point is a very cheerful blue, but it's not a blue that I use in any quantity. I will tend to go for Pool Party, Night of Navy, any other shade but poor Pacific Point. So I thought I would show it some love today. And I'm also going to use, she said, just reaching over to her stamp sets, cup of tea, and I'm going to use Stamperatus. Wait, woo, get me. Ooh, I'm knocking everything over because I'm not prepared. So I'm going to use Stamperatus, and I will need the foam mat with Stamperatus because cup of tea is a photopolymer stamp set. Now I'm going to also apologise in advance because my husband Andrew has just arrived home. He's been out working and he might not know that I'm going live. So he could well burst in full of stuff to tell me. So I'll apologise in advance. The camera looks a bit wonky. I'm just standing up, so I'll just try and level that out. So yeah, Stamperatus, cup of tea stamp set. I'm going to use a template that I'd already cut for myself and some pre-die cut teacups, and I'm going to show you how I set the Stamperatus up from start to finish. So actually it's a good job I've not prepared because that'd be a really nice thing for me to show you. So I'm also going to use some DSP from the cup of tea DSP pack. If you remember, I think I've shared this with you. It's got lots of big patterns on one side and shall I just say quieter patterns on the reverse, and it's this one I'm going to use on the card. On the other side we've got these little Dixie envelopes with tiny flowers. I'm going to use this. This is crushed curry, is the yellow that I'm using today. So I will set up the Stamperatus first of all, and we'll just dive straight in and stamp a couple of teacups. So I'm just going to pop that piece of Pacific Point to one side. Got a bit of a reflection there, but we can manage. So I'm going to use the foam mat that comes with the Stamperatus because my stamp set is photopolymer, so there's none of that spongy between the rubber stamp and the block, and the block in this case is the plate with the Stamperatus. So first of all, I had cut myself a template. So all I've done is I've popped a piece of scrap card, and in this case it's cinnamon cider, which is retired, through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine with the dies that match the stamp set, and I've just cut out a teacup. The first thing I do need to do is position my teacup stamp, and if you look at the stamp set we have two teacup stamps. We've got the striped one, which reminds me of that lovely Cornish blue pottery. So I'm actually going to stamp this cup in blue. Oh, hi Sylvia and Lorna and Mum, and someone else is watching who I can't see their name. So I'm going to actually line the stamp in the hole, so in the actual die cut. I'm going to pick it up with the plate, so I know that that's in exactly the right position. Then I've pre-die cut some of the teacups already. Now I did have these pre-die cut for my catalogue launch, and I did because I did a make and take for people to do on the day, and I happen to have some of these teacups left over. I've got some tags left over and some of the lemon slices left over, so I thought it's a great opportunity to actually use them. So the next thing I can do is pop one of the blank pieces in the actual cutout. Oh, hi Helen, it's Helen Smith. Me. Hiya. I didn't see your little face pop up here somewhere, so I'm guessing that you're watching not on the app perhaps. So I pop the teacup in the cutout. I know that the stamp is going to line up perfectly, so I can go ahead and ink the stamp. So I'm going to take a seat, so I won't be able to see comments just for a minute. So I've got a couple of old style ink pads, the ones that actually click and twist and click again. They're the new style foam ink rather than the old style felt. They were a long time ago. I'm hoping that my Pacific Point might be juicy enough and not too juicy. So I'm just tapping that and inking the stamp as well as I can. I'm going to pop the door back over and give that a press. Now this will pick up because it's a photopolymer and they tend to pick up. Now that's stamped really nicely. If it hadn't, I can pop it straight back in. I can re-ink it and I can re-stamp it, but I'm happy with that one. Let's go ahead and do another one. I think I'll do 3 while we're set up. I'm not sure for this style of card whether 2 or 3 would be optimum. Now another tip here, if you're using Stamperatus and you actually want your plate to be level rather than tilted, you can pop another ink pad underneath and that will hold your plate level. Just makes it slightly easier when you come to ink it up. Yeah, you can tell I've not used Pacific Point ever such a lot. Like I was just saying, it's not my favourite blue. Actually, it's quite a nice cheerful blue. So let's give Pacific Point some love today. Got a bit of a splodgy handle there, but I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to pop another one in. Let's have a look. There's just one there. Pop another one in. And we'll do 3. And then I am going to switch to blocks for the tag and the lemon. But you could equally use this. Oh, I don't like the look of that. I've just got a blob there on my stamp. Whether that's just picked up a bit of fluff or something, I don't know. So I'm just going to actually give that a wipe. I've just chopped a chamois, simply chamois, into pieces. So I find it easier to use a little piece of chamois when I'm using a Stamperatus rather than the big one. That's another tip. When you're placing your order for your simpler chamois, order 2, then you've got a full one for your stamps on blocks and one that you can chop up and use with your Stamperatus if you've got a Stamperatus. Let's see what that's stamped like. That's nice. So this reminds me of that Cornish is it earthenware or pottery, would you call it? So I'm just actually going to flip that over, so that means that my inky stamp can actually rest on cardstock rather than on my foam mat, and then I'm not picking up ink onto my foam, off my foam mat in future when I'm stamping. But I've just finished with Pacific Point ink for the moment, and I've finished with my Stamperatus for the moment, so I can pop that to one side. And like I said, I pre-die cut these pieces when I had my catalogue launch at home, so I've got a few of these little tags. Let's have a look. And a few of these segments, they're sort of like a half circle, and they're for the lemon, so we can have lemon tea. So I'm just going to grab a little block and we'll grab the lemon slice, and because they're photopolymer, and this is my slightly grotty crushed curry ink pad, I do need to actually show my ink pad a bit of love. It's got a bit minging round the edges. They do pick up bits and pieces, and this is a really old ink pad, and it's got very well a bit dry in the middle because it's been very well used. So I'm going to get my trusty gift card that I keep in my drawer, and I will just give it a slide all over. You've seen me do this before. And what that does is it redistributes some of the ink around the ink pad. It just kind of tidies up your ink pads. Now, did you know we do sell the re-inkers, so you can always re-ink your ink pad when they get a bit dry. But did you actually know that if your ink pad gets really grotty, let's say you've accidentally inked another, just looking for some kitchen paper while I talk, you've accidentally inked another stamp and you've dropped it, you've tried to ink it in another ink. So let's say I've accidentally inked this in something like Night of Navy or Evening Evergreen, then I've popped it in here and it's all got contaminated. Did you know you can actually wash the entire thing? You can wash the entire sponge under the cold water tap. I mean, a lot of ink will come out and it'll run, and then you can re-ink it with a bottle of re-inker. And re-inkers cost £3 something, I believe, whereas new ink pads cost, not sure how much they cost at the moment because the prices have just gone up, but there's certainly more to buy a new ink pad than it is a re-inker. So, and you won't need a full re-inker bottle to actually re-ink an ink pad. So I would say if you've got a really grotty one that you've had for a while, and I've had these styles certainly for about 9 years, 8-9 years, and I've got ink on my fingers, so I'm just going to clean that up. Oh, sorry, and I don't know why I've closed that because I need to re-ink my stamp. Waffling on. So let's just re-ink that, and because it's photopolymer, lining up is really easy. They do pick up the cardstock, so you need to then just knock it off with a finger, and there we are, we've got a lovely juicy lemon slice. Now, thinking of a sentiment, let's have a look at the sentiments in the set. So we've got these tiny ones that fit on the tag, so we can do a to and from tag. That's great for a gift. I just can't thank you enough, enjoy, I miss you, sweet, it's time for tea. So I quite like it's time for tea, and I think I like this sentiment as well, so I'm going to use that on the stamp, on the card. So, oh, let's see, we could use this one and give that tag an outline, and let's have a look at that one. It's time for tea. Let's see what we can do here. So let's go for maybe a yellow outline to that tag. Sweet, it just adds a little bit of extra, doesn't it? And then it's time for tea. Let's stamp that in Pacific Point. It's always time for tea in my house. Now, I noticed on Saturday, I think it was International Tea Day. Woohoo! Oh, we have all these lovely days to celebrate, and I didn't miss International Bee Day last week. You have to say that carefully. Bee Day, not Bee Day. We wouldn't celebrate bee days, would we? Ha ha. Anyway, I'm going to pop all these stamped bits into this little tub just to keep them safe. So no, I didn't miss International Bee Day. I was working and I was so hoping to get a post on my social media, and I just ran out of time. Right, I'm going to cut the card base now. So this is when you might need a pencil just to note down the actual measurements and what I'm actually doing. So take a pen and paper, make some notes, and I'll go slowly while I actually do this. So we're going to cut a piece of A4 in half lengthways. So we remember that's 10.5 because A4 measures 21 across. So in your trimmer, portrait, and we're going to just slide and glide that trimmer blade, and we want half a piece of A4, and pop the other half to one side. Now we're going to turn it round landscape. So we've trimmed it lengthways at 10.5. And now we're going to turn it round landscape, and we're going to score, move the trimmer blade out of the way, at just shy of 15 centimetres, because A4 is not quite 30 centimetres. I'm just going to bring that down a bit, and I'm just checking that my trimmer is nice and safe and flat on the desk, because just to get it in shot I've had to hang it just slightly off the desk. So I'm going to score at just shy of 15, and then I want to actually score again. This time I'm going to turn it over, and the reason I'm turning it over is so that my score line is the opposite way. And I'm going to score at 5.25, which is 1, 2, 5, which is 2 1/16 of an inch. I wanted to do this in metric really. 1, 2.5. I need to get my head underneath this so I can see I've actually got it. I've got my reading glasses. So 5.25, another score line. So it's not actually in half of this piece. It's actually at 5.25. So I'm now going to burnish those scores. So here we go. I'm going to fold my card that way, and then I'm going to fold this one back on itself. So I've got a fold like this. So this is a fancy fold so far. I'm going to just burnish those with my bone folder. Burnish that nice and flat. Burnish that one nice and flat. So that's my fancy fold so far. We're going to add to this piece a diamond shape. So it's actually a square just whizzed round on its axis, and that square of card, you can do that in a contrasting colour or exactly the same colour, and I'm going to do two. So I'm going to take this second half here, and I'm going to cut a square. Now I think it's 7.5 from memory, and this is not good with me and numbers, so I think we're 7.5 centimetres by 7.5 centimetres, and if it isn't 7.5 it will be 7, so I'm just going to measure that. It was 7.5, yes. So that's how this piece is going to go. But the next thing I'm going to do is actually make this into a point. So let's recap. We've done half a piece of A4, so 10.5. We've scored at 15, and we've scored from this end, so I turned it round, we've scored at 5.25. And now what I'm going to do is actually measure 5.25 again, I think it is 10.5, 5.25 again this way. I'm just going to measure that, so I'm moving those blades out of the way, and I'm going to look at 5.25. I don't have any notes. Could be dangerous because you know me and numbers. And I'm going to take a pencil this time. Let me just move that trimmer down so you can see what I'm doing. You can do this with a ruler, but just for ease I'm going to do 1, 2, 5, and I'm going to make a pencil mark just there, and I'm going to now cut from the pencil mark to here on both of these sides to make a point. So I will just sit down for this bit. Let me see, make sure I don't get my head underneath. So I'm going to cut from the pencil mark to this first score line. I don't need the scoring tool, we need the trimming tool. So that's one piece trimmed off. I'm going to just turn that round, and from that point to that crease there I'm going to make a cut, and we can discard this piece. So now our card base looks like this. I've made myself a piece, a square that's 7.5 by 7.5 that I'm going to stick on, and I'm going to do another layer on top of this, and I'm thinking that I'll do that layer maybe in a contrasting cardstock colour. I'm not quite sure what colour to use. You can see because I've not actually made this design. I've made a couple of these cards. One of them is for class next week, and I don't want to show it on air because I've decided not to show my class cards until after the event. So I'm thinking what we'll also need is some designer series paper to decorate, and we're going to decorate this piece here and just this piece here, and then we're going to have a piece of white inside to write your greeting. So I'm going to take this piece of designer series paper, and we want it, because we know this is 10.5, I want to just step it down to 10. So I'm going to chop that piece at 10. And if I hold that up, you'll see that I've got enough now to actually do this piece and this piece on the end. And I'd like them to match up. So I'm going to just trim that piece down here to, let me just have a look, get the ruler. Oh, sorry, I just whacked the camera. I'm going to trim this piece that goes under here to 9 centimetres. So I'm going to take 9 centimetres. So that's going to be this piece here. And this piece is going to be like this. And then I want this piece. And I'm actually going to leave that, I think, because I can tuck that under, and when my card opens I can still have a piece of white next to it to write a greeting, and that should all match up. Now can you see, if I spin that bit round, it kind of just doesn't quite match. It's only a very subtle pattern on this one, but if you have a patterned paper, you need to just pay attention to how the pattern runs. You can just make out the pattern continuation. On this one it's not too dramatic, but if you had a patterned piece that the pattern had to match, then just pay attention to how you then stick it on. Don't be spinning the pieces round. So I'm going to actually leave that just to one side. I'm going to reach for a piece of white. Thought I had it out as usual. It's still in the drawer. And I'm going to make myself, I think I'll go with, shall I go with white on here? Still haven't decided. So I'm going to go and make a piece that's 10. So that's my piece for inside. So I know it needs to be 10 for this piece. And I'm just going to measure. Where did I pop my ruler? I have got some notes, but I'm just not following them. I'm going to actually do 8 centimetres. So that piece can go inside, and that can be for my greeting. And I can pop that next to it like that. That's going to be fab. Now, this piece is going to go here, and this is what I'm going to use for my teacups. And I had this idea of having a stack of teacups, and I didn't know whether 3 or 2. I think I might get away with 3 actually. And then I want a second greeting over here, I think. So I'm wondering whether to do another layer underneath or not. I think I might just go with this. Let's just go with Pacific Point. It's quite nice. Quite like that sort of monochromatic, just a couple of colours in this instance. I might give it a pop of something else. I'm winging it, so we'll just have a see. Pop my trimmer to one side, and I can start to do a little bit of assembly. So we'll pop the teacups to one side again, and let's just do a bit of assembly. So a couple of things to think about when you're assembling this style of card. Like I said, just be mindful and pay attention to your pattern. So for example, if you were using this side, you'd want to make sure your envelopes were the right way up. So I'm just going to use multi-purpose liquid glue, as always, my favourite glue. Let's just pop that. See, I've turned it now, haven't I? And we'll pop that there. And we'll just pop these 2 pieces inside. I'm going to put my patterned piece on first, and I want to really make sure I've lined it up nicely. So a bit of wiggle room with my multi-purpose glue, but I just want to make sure I get the gaps the same around the edge. So with that bit of wiggle room, I can lay this down and really make sure I'm nicely lined up. And then I'm going to pop my white piece for my greeting right next to it. I'm getting sticky fingers today, it's not like me, I usually don't get too sticky. And that just fits nice and snug right next to that piece of DSP. Now you can, with this card, you can go on and you can decorate this piece with the same DSP if you want, because the idea of this card is actually, it's called a pivot card. I think it's a pivot flip or something, but the idea is that it pivots when you open it. So I'm actually just going to put glue on this rather than on the square. And because this one, if you're going to layer this up with a piece that's smaller, you would need to be careful not to get the glue right up to the edges, but because this one is actually the same size, I'm good to go, but just put the glue on this side, hold that down, line up the tip and line up those points top and bottom. I'll just use my bone folder, and the bone folder will just spread the glue underneath. And I felt something sticky there, and it might be just a bit of glue. Now it's a little bit of glue there, so with my glue rubber, I'm just going to get rid of that piece of glue there. If you don't have a glue rubber, you can buy these from other craft stores online, or when you're in the high street craft stores, I think they're still available. If you don't have a glue rubber, you can dab your glue, your sticky glue, with your embossing buddy, a bit of powder or a little bit of talc over any sticky areas, and that just takes away any sticky residue. I think that's because I've got sticky fingers for some reason. So I think I'll just decorate, still can't decide, shall I just decorate that? I've got a bit of glue there as well. Very sticky fingers today. So this is what I mean by the pivot. So the actual design of the card, it's designed to be opened like this, and so your decoration pivots when you open it. That's quite cute. I think it's really neat. And this card, this is the base card. You could decorate this however you wanted. This could be a nice floral card, it could be a masculine card. It's just a I think it's just a wonderful fancy fold that's simple, and the recipient would know immediately how to stand it on their mantelpiece. It's not too fancy, but it's fun at the same time because it's got that action. So I can't decide what to do. Shall I decorate? Oh, Lorna's gone. Hi Sylvia, hi Brenda. Oh, is Brenda here? Hello. Right, I think one thing I could do is actually do some stamping in the background. So don't overlook your little tiny images like this little leaf here. And let's have a think about maybe decorating the background using that. Maybe a flower. Let's pop a flower in the background. And we can go tone on tone. Now I'm just going to be careful because I've got underneath this edge here, I'll have a ridge, so I'm going to be careful. Now I know that my teacups are going to be pretty much up the middle anyway, so I maybe just want to pop a few flowers on these two tips here. So I'm going to grab my Pacific point again, so we'll do some tone on tone stamping. Let's use that little flower, and I'm going to actually grab a piece of scratch. I've got some, just bear with me, I've got some scrap paper here, just some plain printer paper, and I'm just going to pop that underneath so I can actually do some just off the edge flowers, because sometimes that's a little bit more interesting to the eye. We'll do that on that side, and we'll do same on this side. This is what happens when you do your crafting, thinking while you're actually making rather than already designed. So let's just pop another one there and another one maybe there. Now I'm going to pop a few of those leaves on, And for the leaves I might just stamp on so it's a little bit paler. I'm not sure that the camera will pick that up, and I'm twisting it each time. I'll come up a bit nearer the camera so you can see when I've finished. Just being careful there. Okay, so we've now got a bit of a pattern on that background. Just lifts it a bit. Let me just hold that up to the camera. I'm not sure still if you can see those leaves, but believe me, I can see them in real life. They just add a little bit of something to that background. And I think I said we would have Let's Get Together Soon. That's this sentiment. Let's pop that on a block, and we'll grab a piece of white. Just thinking about a punch, maybe using a punch to punch this sentiment. Let me pop that there and have a look at what punches I've got. So I've got this one. Let's have a look at that. We could go lengthways with that, and we could go this way, I think that way. And actually we could go a little bit shorter. Shall we? No, we'll go full length and see what that looks like there. Not too bad. I might decide to change that yet. We'll see. Okay, so we've got everything we need. We can start to build this card up now. Let's have a look at these teacups. So I said I wanted a stack of teacups. So let's have a look. And they're going to stack inside each other. I really like that. I'm moving this one down to the bottom. Popping that one in there, popping that one like that, so it looks like a nice stack of teacups. So I'm actually going to stick this bottom one on using some dimensionals so that I can lift it up, and then I can add the other two. So let's have a look in my dimensionals graveyard. Just a few left on this sheet, so let's have a couple, and I'm going to stick them to sort of one side, so I'm leaving this top bit loose, spare, empty, that's the word I'm looking for. I'm going to use the edges of my dimensionals, let's not waste them, and so I can tuck the other card, the other teacup behind. Gosh, what's wrong with me and my words today? And so we'll stick that one quite near the bottom. And reasonably straight, she said. And then we'll stick the next one inside because we've left that gap with the dimensionals. We can stick that one inside, and we'll just pop that on with a bit of Tombow liquid glue. We don't need too much. I love this stamp set, it's such fun. I'll pop that one up there. Oh, of course, needing to remember to leave a gap at the top there as well. And we'll do another jaunty angle there, so we've got a stack of teacups, and that looks fun, and we'll just stick that one down there. There we go. Now we're going to pop a little slice of lemon on this bottom one, and what I'm going to do is just take a snip like so that I can actually just tuck it behind, so that looks quite cute. And another little dot of Tombow. We don't need much. And we'll just stick that onto the rim of the cup and stick that down. That looks quite cute. That pop of yellow just really gives it something. And I'm going to stick this little tag on, and I'm going to actually have a little loop of baker's twine. So let me just reach for my baker's twine pack, and I've got a little bit of white left, so I'm just going to have a snip of white, and what we could perhaps do with is maybe a hole in that tag. I'm not sure. Shall we put a hole in it? Let's have a think. So, easiest way of making a hole. I've got a hole punch, but I've also got my handy whiteboard rubber. Let's use the one that's really punctured. I've got two. And I will use the opposite to my spatula end on my Take Your Pick tool. It's a really good pokey tool, and it's a very large one actually compared to my old pokey tool. That gives you a really good hole, and on the back of that I'm just going to take my snips and hold them flat and just trim off. It'll just make life a little bit easier when pushing that thread through. So let's see how we get on. You can also just stick the thread behind. You don't need to actually poke it through a hole. But oh, I just gave that a lick and forgot I had lipstick on. That's so funny. Let's see if I can just push that through without getting lipstick everywhere and trim that lipstick end off. That's hilarious. Oh. And then if I stick that on with a glue dot, and I'm wondering where to stick it. Shall I stick it just behind? Shall I stick it over the top? And just pop that maybe inside that cup, because that's where a tea bag would be, isn't it? So let's just pop that inside that teacup. Let's find a glue dot and stick it all together. Crack on, Izzy. So here we go, a little glue dot. And we'll pop that just inside that cup there. Pop those ends inside onto the glue dot. And if I wasn't on camera, I would be picking this up and looking at it to see where it is. Let me just have a feel. It's all a bit awkward when you're on camera. It's much easier when you're just doing this. So I think that's quite a good angle. I might just drop that on there like that. That looks quite cute. Another little glue dot. Use the very tip of my snips and just drop that down like that. Sweet. That's cute. Now let's stick that sentiment on and call it done. So your sentiment could go actually on the pivot. It could, you know, it could go on this piece if you had room for it and you wanted it to go on here, because it doesn't matter if it overhangs, or it can go on this piece. You can go top or bottom. I think in this instance I'm going to just go at the bottom, but I will maybe just pop that up. Now, what did I have left with my piece of Pacific Point? So I've got a piece here left. I'm going to punch the same shape. Oh look, I could have used this hole punch and this punch for that little tag. What have I just done with that? Where did it go? Am I going mad? Oh, it's there. I'm going mad. I am. It's official. I'm cracking up. So I'm going to actually raise this sentiment onto this background, and the way I'm going to do that, if you've not done this before, is just chop that in half, and we stick half on one end. The old tricks of the trade. So we pop half on one end, line it up. Again, Tombow multi-purpose glue, lovely because you get some wiggle room. You can really just take your time to get that lined up. So we're nice and even. And we'll pop that up on some dimensionals. So again, I've got back to my little mix of. So a fun fancy fold. Once you've got the measurements, pretty easy to do. You can decorate it with whichever stamp set you have. and with whichever patterned paper you have. Choose your colour scheme, choose your patterned paper, and make some fun fancy fold cards. So let's have a look. What do we think? We could even put another sentiment inside. Like I say, we could decorate this piece as well with the same DSP, and so it looks, you know, the same when you pivot. It just finishes it off. In fact, I might just do that. Shall we do that? I'll just cut another piece. Let's see. I think that was 10 by 9, wasn't it? So that's pretty quick. Let's have a little go. 10 by 9. And we'll just drop that piece inside. That piece there. We'll just drop that in there. So when the card's opened, it really does look fancy. Fancy schmancy. There we go. So now you can see we've got this fun pivot fancy fold, and just have a play. Decorate. I want to see what you've all made when you've had a go, and use whichever stamp sets you've got. Image, sentiment, that's all you need. Some designer series paper and a nice colour scheme. Stay safe with your colour scheme, with just picking 2 colours, or go jazzy. Take your lead maybe from your designer series paper. So remember that when you've got your designer series paper, it always tells you what colours are in the actual pack. So that could be a place to start. You could pick your DSP, that's another gorgeous one. You could do your card base in crumb cake for this one. And pop this gorgeous colour on. Keep it fresh and floral. You needn't even use the tea boutique stamp set for this floral one. You could use something with flowers on that you've got in your stash. You could just let your imagination run wild, or even if your imagination has gone to sleep, just think, well, that's an easy card to make. All you need is an image and a sentiment and some pretty pattern paper, and just go for it. So lovely. I'm going to spin the camera back round just to say goodbye. Let me see what I'm doing here. That button. Yes, it's that one. Fab. Thanks for joining me if you've joined me live today. If you're watching me on catch up on Facebook then and you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up or a heart, or tell me what you think. Drop some comments below. If you're going to have a go at making this fold, then please share your makes with me over on the Crafty Beehive. That's your space. It's an open group for you to share your makes, whether they're Stampin' Up cards or whatever they are. So just share away in the Crafty Beehive. I'm always happy to see what you've all been making. If you're watching me on YouTube and you've not already subscribed, please give me a subscribe. Just hit the button and give me a thumbs up to tell me what you think, and drop some comments. And don't forget, you can purchase all of the items that I've used today over on my online store at izzyscraftybees.stampinup.net. I don't have anything else really to tell you, apart from if you love Stampin' Up products and you've not thought about joining the Stampin' Up family before, or you've been concerned about joining as a demonstrator but you want to get the kit, there's a fantastic offer on at the moment where you pay £99 to join and you pick, as always, £130 worth of stuff from any of the catalogues, but you will also get some extra freebies in all of the in colours. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then skip over to my online store and you will find details of the joining offer at the moment. Have a look on my Facebook posts or my Instagram posts over the last few days, certainly, and that offer is on until the end of May, so only a few days left. So that's all from me. Thanks again for joining me. Stay safe, stay happy, keep stamping, and share your makes with me on the Crafty Beehive. Lots of love, everyone. Bye for now.